And we are live, live, live. Welcome to Tuesday Talk, everyone. We are going to have a great time tonight because we have an ophthalmologist. How many ophthalmologists do you know? How many have you visited? How many times we are live on YouTube. How many times have you gone to see an ophthalmologist? An ophthalmologist, is it the same as an optometrist? No, they're actually different. An ophthalmologist is a medical doctor and can perform surgeries, and is the type of doctor that, unfortunately, too many of our people do not visit on a regular basis and do not understand the importance of taking care of your eyes. On top of that, how many ophthalmologists do you know that are African centered? Well, I'm going to tell you, I know one, and that's Dr. Daniel Laroche, and he is our guest for this evening. And I want to tell you, with all the guests we've had, I had a lot of fun planning with him. He gave me work to do. He gave me some work. He thought I was one of his medical students. We had a whole lot of fun. So come on in, and Dr. Laroche, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Abud. Thank you for having me. Akamaat. Thank you.
Okay, my aunt. Good, good. So before we get started, before I read your bio, I just want to give the audience a little bit of who you are and with our conversation, because we had such a great conversation before when we were preparing. So can you just give the audience a little bit of what your background is, how you got started? I mean, a lot of you who follow know Dr. Laroche because he is a good contributor in the comments. And I've read some of his comments on past Tuesday talks. So now we have him as a guest. So Dr. Laroche, give us a little background on who you are, your childhood.
Yes. I was born here in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is from Jacmel, Haiti, very dark-skinned black man. My mother's from Montreal, Canada, Quebec, the French Canadian province. She's a Caucasian woman. My dad had left Haiti to try to make a better life for himself, and he studied medicine in Canada. He met my mom over there, and they fell in love. And she was in the medical profession too as a nurse. They came to New York City, and then I was born thereafter. I was born in Queens, New York. We lived in Jamaica, Queens, Richmond Hill, Jackson Heights. Then moved out to Long Island, Great Neck, Long Island, where I attended middle school and high school in Long Island. And my dad had chosen coming out to Long Island because it was really rigorous. In Great Neck, they had a really rigorous school district there.
Mm-hmm.
He was very big on academics. You know, Haitian and Nigerian dads and parents are like, you have to be a doctor, a lawyer, a businessman, or a failure. So they're very into academics, which I appreciated. And so attended Great Neck North Senior High School. And during high school, I liked the sciences a lot, and I'd been exposed to medicine because my dad was a physician.
Mm-hmm.
Worked at Jamaica Hospital in Queens for over 25 years. And so I did well in the sciences. I had an affinity for that. And so I was thinking about going pre-med when I went to college. And I went to New York University for college in the city here. And I was a chemistry major. I liked chemistry and studied there. And I would say in college is where I really sort of became more conscious in community and consciousness more into African spirituality. There were some people that really influenced me. My dad and my mom, I mean, too much spirituality from my mom's side. My dad wasn't very spiritual because in Haiti, you do have the voodoo culture, the voodoo spirituality, but he wasn't spiritual. He did take us there when we were kids, and I got exposed to some voodoo ceremonies, but he was not a practitioner or follower of that. And my mom was very religious into the church, but it never sat well with me, the church, because when I was going to this Roman Catholic church, I used to always see these white pictures of Jesus and angels and
Right.
this and that. And I always thought there was something wrong with that. And Muhammad Ali has a joke of what happened to the black people? He said, oh, the black people in the kitchen cooking. So it never sat well with me. And so when I was in college at that time, I was exploring some different things. In addition to doing my sciences, we met people like Dr. Gerald Deese, who was a giant in Queens in medicine. He was always on the Bill McCurry Report. He had his own show, and he would come down and lecture to us at NYU. We had an organization called the Black Science Students Organization. And we got to invite people like Ivan Van Sertima. And he was a giant at the time. He had a book, Blacks in Science, and I developed a relationship with him. We would invite him down every year to talk to the students. And so I was heavily influenced by those two individuals. And then also around that time, Farrakhan came to Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave a riveting speech, and I had attended that event. And so then I looked at Islam for a while, in terms of trying to pursue something else spiritually. But then when I learned about the Arab slave trade and all those things, that sort of pushed me away from that. And then also learning about Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark. I learned a little bit more with Ivan Van Sertima too. He talked about Kemetic spirituality. It was a book from Egypt. And so that's how I got that introduced to that. And that gave me a really solid, African foundation in terms of our history and knowledge of our history, and really gave me a good footing going forward with confidence to be able to achieve anything I wanted to do, studying vigorously. When you learn about what the ancestors accomplished.
That's right.
It's like, okay, they did that back then. Well,
right.
How come I can't do this now? So there's nothing could really stop me at that point. And so then, I excelled as a chemistry major in college, and I went to Cornell Medical School,
Mm-hmm.
Ivy League Medical School in New York City. And that was a very rigorous program there because, Cornell was like one of the top 10 medical schools in the country. And everybody there was like super sharp. And that felt very intimidating. But I was like, I'm still going to hold my own over here. But it was really challenging. When you walk through the halls of that building at Cornell Medical School, it's all white faces, all white portraits.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really see any black portraits over there.
Right.
And so we were like, part of that first wave after the civil rights generation to, integrate into some of these higher institutions.
Mm-hmm.
So that was challenging. But, once again, I had my consciousness. So I knew what was going on and I knew what I was there for.
That's right.
I needed to do what I needed to do, get my degree, get my training, and, in that respects. And I went into it was interesting. One story I'll tell you, when I was doing a medicine rotation, OBGYN rotation,
Mm-hmm.
and at Cornell in the Ivory Towers, some of the patients were so private and VIP, they didn't even want like medical students to participate, to come into their room. Mm-hmm. So in some of my clinical rotations, I didn't feel I had a good hands-on experience because of that. And so I said, okay, when I finish here, I'm going to do a more hands-on internship. And so I went to the Bronx at Montefiore Hospital. Now, in the Bronx, that was during the HIV epidemic, okay? And so during the HIV epidemic, there was a lot of AIDS going on. They were extremely understaffed. And I was taking care of patients as if I was the doctor. Mm. I definitely got my hands-on experience during that. And that was an eye-opener. But because I had a lot of experience, it was a confidence builder for me as well. Like I felt like I could do anything after that. So then I went down to Howard University for my ophthalmology training. Ophthalmology is a very competitive profession. It's very hard to get into ophthalmology, eye surgery. It's one of the more competitive subspecialties out there. But I was able to get into that, and I went to Howard. I was very grateful for that. It was a great experience going to a historically Black college.
That's right.
I felt that, in there, I was really amongst family type of thing. I didn't have to worry about people didn't really care about what my future was going to be. So that was a nice, unique experience. I'm glad I got that under my belt. And then when I finished that, I did a subspecialty training in glaucoma because when I was at Howard, I learned about like how badly glaucoma affected the Black community.
Mhm.
There were lots of people with glaucoma, people going blind, people who had gone blind. And that stuck with me. I said, well, why so many people about people going blind from glaucoma? I wanted to devote myself to learn more about this specialty and try to figure this out. So I did a subspecialty training in glaucoma at the New York Eye and Ear Infirmary. I came back to New York for that.
Mm.
At New York Eye and Ear, that was one of the top glaucoma programs in the country. And there, I had a very intense glaucoma. So all types of glaucoma, people from all over the world. The people I was working with, they were internationally renowned glaucoma specialists. People who come from like Russia, Europe, all over the place, all different types of glaucoma, all different types of surgeries. So after that, I felt like, okay, I can do anything, in terms of glaucoma. And so then I had wanted to work with my mentors there to open up a practice in like Harlem and Southeast Queens affiliated with the hospital. But they weren't interested in that. And because of that, I was like, okay, let me see what I could do on my own,
Right.
And so I got a part-time job at Columbia, working part-time at Columbia, and I started a private office right out of scratch in the Queens Village.
Mhm.
And then that ramped up real quick, and within 2 years, I was able to survive on that. And so I opened up a second office in Harlem because I knew, as soon as I opened up within the community, there was a lot of glaucoma in the community. I'd be busy and be able to take care of people right away. So I've been doing that over the last 20 plus years.
That's great. That's so, I heard a little bit of this in the prep, but to hear it consistently and consecutively, I feel like it was a story and that I was a part of it. I think that's wonderful. I do have one question. What brought you to glaucoma first? Was it when you got there and you saw I'm sorry, not glaucoma, ophthalmology. What brought you to ophthalmology first? I understand why you wanted to do glaucoma, but what brought you to eye surgery first?
That's a great question. So when I was in medical school and I was initially going through the process, I thought I was going to become like a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
I was really impressed with people like Frances Cress Welsing, who was a psychiatrist.
Right.
She wrote like a lot of popular books
Mm-hmm.
and some of the topics on race and theory and stuff like that.
Yep.
But when I did the psychiatry rotation, it was very depressing for me
Mm-hmm.
because you're dealing with like people with schizophrenia,
Mm-hmm.
chronic disease that does not get better.
Right.
And I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So I was like, for me, it was a little bit too depressing for me.
Okay.
So then I did some other rotations, OBGYN, medicine. I like surgery a lot, general surgery, but the training was very militaristic and brutal. Very hard. Like you have to be up 36 hours, 48 hours,
That's crazy.
be at rounds at 5 a.m. And it was extremely abusive. So I said, you know what? I won't survive this. They'll read about me. Like Dr. Laroche goes off on his on his attendings. I wouldn't survive that training. And then I decided to do an ophthalmology rotation. Okay.
I don't know what that was. Let's keep going.
Okay. So I decided to do an ophthalmology rotation. And the ophthalmology rotation was really eye-opening because in this specialty, you can do surgery, like for cataract surgery, eye surgery, different types of surgery, which I love surgery. Mm-hmm. You can see patients in the office setting. And then the training and the people were very nice. The people were very, very nice. So I was like, oh, okay, this is something I would like. And then also, when you look inside the eye, you can see pathology. When you look inside the eye, I can see diabetes, hypertension, glaucoma. If someone has a inflammatory disease, sarcoidosis. And so you can see different things in the eye. So I like the ability of being able to see the pathology and being able to treat somebody. And then I learned also that subsequently that there was a shortage of black eye doctors. There was a need for that. And so all those things, I decided to go into ophthalmology.
Wow. That I did not know. I did not know that you can actually, ironically or coincidentally, visibly see the disease that's in the eye. Because, as someone who I'm not a doctor, I'm not an ophthalmologist. It just never crossed my mind that just like you can see pathology, or pathology meaning a disease state, you can see a disease state in the eye as well. So, Dr. Laroche, can you tell us what is glaucoma, and then what causes glaucoma?
Okay. Um, Glaucoma, there's a video I sent. Did he download the video link for the glaucoma video?
Sean, do you have the glaucoma link for the link for the glaucoma video?
It's the glaucoma video that ends in J000. I'd like to play that one first, if you have it. Is he responding to you?
He's back there. You can continue to discuss it, and yeah, I see
Okay.
him working. And then he'll
All right.
play it when he's
So,
ready.
okay. So glaucoma is an optic neuropathy
Can you
characterized.
define that? Can you define neuropathy? All those terms.
Yeah. Okay. So when I touch my eye here, okay,
Mhm.
it has an eye pressure. The normal eye pressure is around 15. Okay. Now with age, the lens that's inside your eye gets a little bit larger with age, and that can narrow the drainage angle, the drain in the eye, which blocks the drain, and that can lead the eye pressure to go up
Oh, okay.
to 18 or higher, but you don't feel it. And that higher eye pressure can damage the optic nerve. Optic nerve is a nerve that connects the eye to the brain.
Mm.
And so the optic nerve is normally round and it has a small cup, but inside the cup gets bigger and bigger and bigger when the pressure is high and affecting that. And that can lead to loss of vision. Yeah, this is the video. Let's see if this plays.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's have it.
Glaucoma is a leading cause of blindness, globally affecting nearly 80 million people by 2020. This silent thief of sight involves optic nerve damage and visual field loss secondary to retinal ganglion cell damage or cell death. The eye produces fluid from the ciliary processes to bathe the eye. The fluid drains via the trabecular meshwork, aqueous veins, uveoscleral pathway, and suprachoroidal space. With time, the trabecular meshwork ages and the lens of the eye becomes larger, developing a cataract. This narrows the drainage angle, reducing the ability of aqueous to drain from the eye. Additionally, in some patients, the zonules that attach the lens to the iris rub against the posterior iris, releasing pigment that further blocks the outflow pathway. This, in addition to genetic predisposition in some patients, leads to elevated intraocular pressure. This increased pressure goes on to damage the optic nerve, described as cupping. When this occurs, medical therapy should be initiated. Since as many as 50% of patients fail medical eye drop therapy, early cataract extraction can be performed to open the angle, and goniotomy should be performed to remove the damaged trabecular meshwork to help improve aqueous flow. Patients with advanced glaucoma due to worsening outflow will need an additional intervention. Dr. Daniel Laroche is a board-certified ophthalmologist and glaucoma specialist and president of Advanced Eye Care of New York. He is a graduate of New York University and Cornell University Medical College and inventor of the intrascleral ciliary sulcus suprachoroidal microtube technique, a surgical treatment for glaucoma. This microtube shunt procedure should only be used in patients with glaucoma whom have had their cataracts removed. This procedure allows aqueous fluid to safely drain to the suprachoroidal space without the risk of corneal edema, which can occur when a tube is in the anterior chamber. Under local anesthesia, an inferotemporal conjunctival opening is made to place the microtube in this quadrant. A small partial thickness scleral flap is made to place the tube. A micro-opening is made superiorly to place elastic gel into the eye to expand the space between the posterior iris and the intraocular lens. This is where the silicone microtube will be positioned. A small 23-gauge needle is used to make an incision into the sulcus. Then the silicone microtube is placed. The position is confirmed with an instrument. The microtube is then tied to the eye. Then another micro opening is made to access the suprachoroidal space. The posterior end of the tube is inserted into the suprachoroidal space. This connection allows the aqueous to drain to the suprachoroidal space. This bypasses the damaged trabecular meshwork to successfully lower intraocular pressure. The scleral flap is then sutured closed. The viscoelastic gel is left in the anterior chamber. Post-operative steroids and antibiotics should be given. Dr. Laroche has had excellent results lowering the intraocular pressure. Since glaucoma is a lifelong disease that can worsen with age, a patient's intraocular pressure should still be checked periodically. Additional medical therapy or repeat surgery may be needed. Diet, exercise, and mindfulness are important aspects for glaucoma care as well. For additional surgical training for physicians and consultations for patients, Dr. Laroche can be reached at 718-211-0424 or 212-663-473 and by email at info@advancedeyecare.ny.com. Thank you for watching.
I hope you guys really enjoyed that video. I remember watching it the first time. I really enjoyed it because, being in the Black community, you hear about glaucoma all the time. And the only thing that we really kind of process, if you're not a trained physician, not an ophthalmologist, maybe you didn't take any kind of medical or biology classes, is that people's eyes look grayed over and maybe blue. And that's kind of it. And it's something that happens to older people, right? That's kind of how I had deduced what glaucoma was, but to understand it from that perspective, we can see and understand what is happening to our bodies, what's happening to our eyes, what's happening in any kind of process or procedure that's alleviating some of the pressure. And I would imagine, and Dr. Laroche, correct me if I'm wrong, either preserving sight or perhaps regaining some of our sight. Can you explain how a patient is going to physically feel after they have that procedure or other kind of glaucoma surgeries and procedures?
It depends.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on how early or late a patient's coming in. I urge everyone over the age of 40 to get their eyes checked, check for glasses, cataracts, glaucoma, retinopathy, macular degeneration. And if you get caught early, we could treat you very mildly with eye drops or early cataract surgery and microinvasive glaucoma surgery. The recovery from that is actually quite quick. People can often see the next day, fully healed within about 5 days, and that's not so bad. If you're coming very advanced with a lot of loss of vision, and not only do you need the cataract surgery, but you need a bigger glaucoma operation, that healing takes a lot longer, about 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks. And we have stitches in the eye. Stitches have to be pulled out or mailed away. And those bigger procedures are trabeculectomy or glaucoma tube shunts. And so those are bigger procedures. That's why it's very important. Some of our elders, like John Henry Clark, went blind from glaucoma.
Right.
And then we didn't have the things that we have today back then for him. The things that we have today are much easier, much safer. The techniques are much better.
More sophisticated.
Much more sophisticated. But the key is for people to get their eyes checked. That's because glaucoma is called the silent thief of sight, because you don't feel it. And then by the time you notice it, the vision slowly goes from peripheral to central. And by the time you notice it, you could have lost 90% of your vision in one eye already.
Oh my goodness.
Many times a patient will say, I covered my eye and I noticed I couldn't see out of this side. And it just happened all of a sudden. And I'm like, it didn't happen all of a sudden. You just noticed it on this day. This has been going on for a while. When was your last eye examination? Oh, 10 years ago. Things like that. So
yeah,
education is a big part of it. Half of the people that have glaucoma in the United States do not know that they have it. They're walking around with it and they don't know that they have it. So it's, a lot of the things that I do, I have a lot of YouTube videos about education, educating the community, and inform the community, because there's a shortage of Black doctors in the community. There's a
Mhm.
shortage of ophthalmologists in the community. There are 26,000 ophthalmologists in the United States, only 400 are African American, and there are 40 million Blacks in the United States. So there's a shortage of Black ophthalmologists in the United States and the Caribbean and Africa. So this is a big
Just
problem
period.
in the global African communities, and that's due to that history of slavery, segregation, colonialism. So we're still trying to, catch up from that.
Recuperate
So
from that.
we need a
Yeah.
lot more Black doctors to help address in all specialties, not just my specialty, but all specialties.
So I'm glad that you brought that part up. I'm gonna go back a little bit to the actual glaucoma. Not catching glaucoma early is parallel to not catching colon cancer early. Is parallel to letting diabetes get out of control, where you have to get a part of your body chopped off. And what that really means is we as Black people have to take responsibility for seeing our medical professionals. Now, I'm Black. We have the show. We understand that there are disparities across the board, and absolutely including in the medical profession. There's also a history of experimentation, ignoring the realities of what's happening to Black people's, Black men and Black women's bodies. Lack of recognizing and diagnosing issues, and so because of that, there is distrust with medical professionals amongst Black people. And that is not to be ignored at all. One of the reasons why I was really glad to have Dr. Laroche on here is because he's an ophthalmologist. And again, one of my first questions was, how many ophthalmologists do you know? He is a medical professional in the community in New York City. And he is also African centered and centered around Kemetic sciences. And as he said earlier, he's influenced by some of the same people who influence us: Dr. Ivan von Sertila, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, John Henry Clark. So having him on, it is my hope that he can be a conduit for all of you to re-examine or revisit looking for medical professionals, looking for Black medical professionals. And when I say Black, I mean Pan African medical professionals, and seeking some of them out who are African centered. And as you've heard me say before, Tuesday Talk is for Kemetic spirituality, African spirituality, and Pan Africanism. So these people don't have to practice African spirituality or Kemetic spirituality, but it absolutely helps when they do, because there's a certain understanding of that perspective. Family. These doctors are out there. They're out wherever you are. They are here. We have to look and find them, but it is worth your eyesight to do so. It is worth finding these doctors. And as I've said done before, the videos and the links and the contact information, I'm going to have that for Dr. Laroche afterwards. So if you missed it, you're going to get it again. Okay. So thank you for explaining and the visual for that of what glaucoma is and how it starts. And I've heard the narrowing explanation before, when it comes to glaucoma and understanding glaucoma. The last time I went to the eye doctor it was during COVID. So I don't know the exact date, but I have it in my phone to go back. And he said the doctor said to come back in 2 years. So what does that mean, Dr. Laroche, when I don't have to go back every year, just 2 years? I got good eyesight?
Yes. And then also, because I know the Shrine has a wide reach across the United States, congratulations, Jabari and Anika, on the Phoenix Shrine. Okay. But there's a website called Black Eye Care Perspective.
Ooh.
Okay. So you can find an eye doctor anywhere, a Black eye doctor anywhere across the country.
I did not know that.
Black Eye Care Perspective, you can find one. And also, there's an organization called the National Medical Association. It's founded in 1895, the Association of African American Physicians, about 20,000 African American physicians across the country. And many of the Black eye doctors can refer you to a good African American doctor and anything that you need. Like, I have a whole circle of doctors I work with in GI, cardiology, internal medicine, that are very good doctors, very caring, and will get you the things that you need in that respects as well. So you should try to reach out to. We're a good resource in the community, and should try to reach out as well. And it's important to take your health in your hands, because nowadays there's so many things that we can do with early detection and prevention in that respects. So you want to get a good wellness check. Make sure you know what your blood pressure is. Um, Make sure you know what your blood sugar is. For the ladies, you want to get your woman's check with your mammogram, a GYN examination.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get your eyes checked. Those are all important. Obviously, the most important thing from a Kemetic perspective is eating healthy. Lots of salads, lots of vegetables, baked chicken, baked fish, um, lots of water. Um, Also, exercise, 30 minutes a day of walking. Exercise is very important. Circulating that blood flow, increasing
That's
the blood
right.
flow and the heart rate. And then meditation, relaxation, whether it's through Kemetic yoga, just anything you can do to relax. Meditation, mindfulness lowers the eye pressure by about 20%, lowers your blood pressure by about 20%. And those three things really help to prevent disease and extend your life.
So it's almost like you're writing this for me, because I'm asking the question like while you're kind of explaining it. Please draw a direct correlation with unhealthy eating to glaucoma. Anybody who's been on Tuesday Talk with me knows that I call slave food slave food. And sometimes I have some people who say a booster shot, you have to soften it. I'm not going to soften it, because I want you to understand that we have alternatives. And I understand that these so-called food deserts happen for the most part naturally. This is food apartheid. This is food disparity happening in our Black communities. However, there are other options to have more healthy food. Okay, just like Dr. Laroche, he gave some examples. Now I'm vegan, but if everybody doesn't have to be vegan, if you have lean meat and lots of salads and vegetables, you can saute vegetables and fruit and fast. Once Start with fasting once a month. Go on a fruit fast. I fast. I water fast once a week. My mom and I decided we were going to fast water fast once a week. Sometimes the water fast is water and tea. Sometimes it's water, tea, and coffee. Sometimes the coffee has creamer, vegan creamer, and sometimes the tea has syrup or not. And the reason why we do that is because basically it's still water, but we change it up, give it a little variety, make it a little easier to do. You can intermittent fast. Like sometimes I don't eat I drink water. Sometimes I don't eat anything till around noon. Okay, these are um, easier ways to take control of your diet. I don't mean going on a diet, but I mean the kind of food you eat, the way you eat, the pace at which you eat, and the fasting that you do. Those are just some simple suggestions that you can have to do those things. Okay. Now, one of the things that I hope happens from watching Tuesday Talk is that we stop doing what our enslavers told us to do, and that was eat slop, and that was eat the scraps, and that was taught to us everywhere we were dispersed, all in the Americas. Okay, so Dr. Laroche, please draw a direct connection between slave food and glaucoma.
Well, the thing is, you want to eat healthy. The big thing that's hurting a lot of our community right now is a lot of the rice and the bread,
Mhm.
because those are inexpensive foods.
Mhm.
So people eat like a lot of rice, a lot of bread, and that turns into fat. And that fat blocks your blood vessels,
Mhm.
can leave you high blood pressure, increases your weight, can lead to diabetes. And then all these things can also contribute to elevated eye pressure,
Mhm.
leading to glaucoma, cancer, all these types of things. And that's a big problem because these are inexpensive foods.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
healthier foods like salads, vegetables, uh, tends to be a little bit more expensive.
Mhm.
And we have tremendous financial inequities in our society.
Mhm.
The average white family is worth about $175,000 a year, and the average black family is only worth about $17,500 a year. That's like a tenfold gap. And so that's part of the problem. And I understand that. But food is your medicine. The best food that you could have, that's your medicine there. So you could pay a little bit more now to take care of yourself, including fasting, or pay later when you're taking medications for diabetes and high blood
Right.
pressure. And eye drops for glaucoma are not cheap. They can be anywhere from $20 to $50 a bottle monthly. And so, diet and exercise, and no one's perfect.
Right.
We fall off the wagon. I fall off the wagon, and so, but I try. I try my best.
Mhm.
Talk to my wife about it, and we try to push each other to say, as best that we can. So I agree with you.
Right. And so when Dr. Laroche was talking and made me think of this, back in the day, there was something called a chia pet. Y'all remember? Chia. Okay. It was like an animal and it had, I don't know, little seeds and you'd water it. And then what would look like fur on the animal was actually food. So basically what that was a fun way to grow your own food inside your home. You can grow lettuce and little tomatoes inside your home very easily. Lettuce grows so easily, and lettuce is the basis for a salad. So you can grow lettuce, onions. Onions, you plant them in the spring, and you harvest them around this time. And this is in the Northeast. I'm sorry, guys. Some of the information I give about growing is pertinent to the Northeast because this is where I live. But you can find, but it's easier if you live south, and if you live more north than that, it's really not that much different because of the hardiness zone. Okay, around this time is when you plant garlic. If you have a little plot of land, little space, you can grow this in the home. Growing onions, growing garlic, growing peppers. Animals don't like garlic, onion, and peppers. I never catch a squirrel chomping on the garlic or chomping on the peppers. They just simply don't do that. But those vegetables are so good for you, and they're inexpensive, and they're easy to grow, and the animals don't want them. So that's a place to start. You can start right there, and you can DM us with the Shrine of My Aunt, and I can give you some suggestions, and I can forward you to other people who can help you grow some things. But honestly, get some good soil and put a seed in, or you grow from a seedling. You have a little plant, and then you plant that again. That's a little off topic, but this is a way for you to empower yourself to grow something that is so healthy for you. The second thing is this. I had a guest on who talked about canning and also growing collard greens, kale, dark leafy greens. Those are so incredibly filling. You feel so full when you have lots of greens, lots of sauteed greens. Don't go get a piece of pork or turkey and then put some butter on it and salt or whatever, because that's going to defeat the purpose. But you can get those greens. You can get some grapeseed oil, which is a high heat cooking oil, and add some spices. You can put your spices on, but make sure you read it so there's not a whole lot of salt. Because again, we're talking about the food that you eat that translates into pressure, increasing the blood pressure, increasing the pressure in the eye, and that's what we don't want. So something as simple as taking vegetables, putting it in a pan, letting it cook down, put a little water on it, let it cook down from this big gigantic bunch to something small. This is what I do. And then after you take it out of that pan, then you want to put it in another pan, add a little cooking oil and some seasonings, and then you eat the whole thing. You'll
So
feel
good.
full. It's low in calories and it's good for you. Go ahead, Dr. Laroche.
So what um, I do green juices.
Okay, do that
So
too.
what I'll do is take the greens, uh, make several juices in those put them in plastic bottles, freeze them, and I'll take 2 or 3 bottles with me every day to work. And like when I take a little 10-minute break, throughout the day. By the time that happens, it'll defrost, and I'll have like 2 or 3 green juices like that. So I'm not a frying pan person, so I just do the juicing thing.
I was gonna say it like that, frying pan, like the theme song, The Good Times.
I'm just saying, different people have different approaches. So
He said frying pan, but you know what? I juice and I save them in little bottles. But I never thought about putting them in plastic and freezing it. That's a really good idea. I'm surprised your girl Shot didn't think about that. That's a really good idea to take the greens and juice them. And if you need it to be sweet, let me tell you something. Granny Smith apples and or pineapples will make anything sweet.
Yes.
So find out what's healthy for you and put it in a juicer and put in some pineapple or a Granny Smith apple, and it's just going to taste good. It'll be palatable, and we can use Dr. Laroche's suggestion to freeze it and take it with you where you go, or you can get you a frying pan from Good Times and use my suggestion. I'm just joking. So let me ask you a question about one of the book that you have. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because I want to talk about his book. I want him to explain that because he does a good job. Then I want to talk about Sankofa, and then bring it on back to talk about how we need more Black doctors. We need more Black doctors, especially who are more African-centered, so we can regain the trust of the medical profession within the Black community. See, let me just say this, that we were the first people on the planet, African people, period. Okay? Therefore, we were the first doctors on the planet. So there was a time in our history, in our ancestry, when not only did we trust physicians, we were the physicians. Not only were we trusting our eye doctors, we were the eye doctors. We were the only ones. We were the obstetricians. Okay? We were the surgeons. So as African people and Pan African people, we do not have an inherent fear of doctors. We understand enough of our history to have somewhat of a little bit more elevated precaution with medical professionals. And we got to stop doing that. We have to be strategic. We have to do our research. Okay. But we have to begin to regain trust with the medical professionals who have demonstrated by the allegiances and organizations that they're with, by their colleagues, and by the experience that patients have with these doctors, to go back to see our medical doctors, our MDs. Because a lot of people think that they can just be a YouTube doctor. They get their YT after their name. They get their YouTube doctor. We don't need any more of those. Okay, I'm not saying you can't learn from YouTube. Okay, because I've been using herbs for around 20 years. And some of the videos I see on YouTube, I know are spot on because I did my own research before research was easy to find. But you can't be a YouTube doctor. Okay, you have medical doctors who have MDs and naturopathic doctors who has N as Nancy, NDs. But we have to regain, just do a little bit of work and trust what our medical doctors are talking about. Okay, so that being said, let's talk about your book. Let's talk about Sankofa. Let's bring it on back to the medical professionals. And I also want to put in the chat those professional organizations that you mentioned, Dr. Laroche. I'm familiar with some of those from when I was at Spelman. Oh, I got to also shout out to HBCU Experience. The HBCU Experience provides a safe opportunity, number one, to feel a little insecure or intimidated, because you have people around you who support you, who say, no, you don't need to feel that way. They provide that history and encouragement to know that we did this first. So why are we afraid to do it now? You also see other scholars who are top notch and where they came from and what they do. And it encourages you and gives you that confidence to go forward because you see yourself in others. I know I felt that way when I was at Spelman, and people feel that way, Howard, whatever, all the HBCUs. Okay. So Dr. Laroche, let's start with your book. What's the name of the book that you wrote?
Okay. It's How to Be a Successful Black Man. Let's see.
There you go.
You see it there?
Right there. That's good.
Okay. And it has the image of a Black family. from ancient Kemetic times here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, why did I pick that? Well, if you look at the media, you can just turn the TV on and scroll different channels. Most of the images you see of white people. And the world population of white people is only 15%. But if you look at the media, you would think it'd be like 90% in that respect. And so we don't see ourselves in the media.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. We don't see ourselves in the Christian spirituality. If you go to churches, you don't see ourselves in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to do something for young people and all adults too. So one, you can see yourself and the family. You don't see the family. Okay,
That's right.
There's been a complete breakdown of the family. Okay, which started really like in the early 70s, after the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
It was an attack on black men, attack on educational opportunities in the schools, trades, training. And so you don't see that as much. And we have to look back and restore and go back,
That's right.
understand our images. And you mentioned Sankofa. And so you see this, for those who don't know,
Up. Yeah. There
right
you go.
there,
Right there. Right there.
that's the sign of Sankofa. Okay. And that's like a geese, a duck, a bird looking back.
I'm
Okay.
trying to show my tattoo.
Looking back. You got to look back and know your history,
That's right.
learn our history, and also as you move forward, reach back. And so the reason I wrote my book was to help empower young people to learn their history. And what's in the book? Well, I talk about, the first person whom we all come from, Dinkinesh, the first woman, African woman from Ethiopia, 3.2 million years ago. The whole world comes from two African women. Dinkinesh was the first one 3.2 million years ago, and Tournai. When I was in Senegal, I got to see the bones of Tournai in the Museum of Black Culture over there from Chad. Okay, so the whole world needs to know that, but they don't teach you that. Okay, that we come from the African woman in Africa.
That's right.
When I was in school, in high school, I remember some kids, and these were other black kids, telling me, "Oh, why are you trying to study so hard? Why are you trying to be white?" Scholarship was an African thing. That's an African invention.
That's right.
Okay, we invented the writing with the Medunetta. Okay, language. Okay, so scholarship, the first book, Ptahhotep,
Mm-hmm.
the first physician, Imhotep,
Mm-hmm.
the first female physician, Merit Ta,
Mm-hmm.
and in my specialty, ophthalmology, first ophthalmologist, Irie and Sklar. We invented cataract surgery. We invented all medicine. Medicine back then was subspecialized into all the different categories that we have today. That's where they got it from.
That's right. Steve.
So we're not taught this in schools. There's an effort not to teach us in schools. In high schools now, all they want to teach is slavery, Rosa Parks, and Martin Luther King. So it's upon us to write our stories, write our books, write our history. My interest is more in the medical profession, because that's what I'm in. But whatever specialty that you're in, whatever profession that you're in, there's a start back in Africa, back in Kemet. You can trace and find out what that is. And that history is still being discussed, and you can write about it. And I incorporate these things in my scientific presentations. When I give a talk, I just want to acknowledge the ancestors, Ptahhotep, Imhotep, and the first ophthalmologist. Okay, to white audiences or black audiences, because that's the truth that they need to hear and learn, and we need to teach them. And unfortunately, whites are also victims because they're not receiving the truth. They're receiving they're being taught that they're superior.
Right.
They were the original. They're not being taught all this millions of years of history, BCE. And that's what's gonna, when we study that, that's gonna make you so much more superior than your colleagues, because you have the full knowledge and the full history, and they don't. So you're going to excel in everything. Okay? And I give an example. That history, that Kemetic history of cataract surgery, Imhotep, who I call upon, if I'm in a quandary and I'm trying to figure something out, that was like the inspiration in some of the new surgical techniques that I come up with. I've come up with a variety of surgical techniques and completely changed my approach to glaucoma to really help prevent blindness. And publishing these things scientifically, and in all my publications, I include young Black medical students. On all my papers on PubMed, you'll see like a young Black medical student who's trying to get into ophthalmology. I'm trying to get into ophthalmology, and he has some scholarship. So no matter what your specialty is, whether it's architecture, banking, plumbing, this, that, there's an origin in Kemet. You have to figure that out and tap into, see what they did and say back then, and say, well, what can you do to take it to the next level? And not be afraid to do that.
That's right. So
now there's a video I'd like to show you that just talks about some of the history of cataract surgery. It's a 10-minute video. It's the African origin of cataract surgery. Do you have that? They have that link? It's on the YouTube link, African history of cataract surgery.
Sean, let me know in the private chat if you have it. And while we're waiting for that, there is a question that I want to ask. Someone asked, where is it? I just had it. Oh, can castor oil be used as an eye drop?
We don't use that. I've never used that. I don't recommend that. Some of these types of remedies sometimes come up in different locations where you don't have access to the medications that we have access to nowadays. So that's not something I've used or would recommend. We have access in this country to many things that, can help target whatever the problem is that you're having.
Okay. I see people just being grateful for this and saying this is great. Jason Holmes, one of our members, said this was so eye-opening. I don't know if he was trying to give us a pun. I deal with glaucoma and never had a clear understanding of what it is. Oh, okay. No, that wasn't a pun. Okay, great. Now, see, yeah, me neither. It's just something that we hear our elders talking about and not really kind of understanding what it actually is. I put in the chat, Dr. Laroche.
I think Sean has a video, I think.
Oh, is he ready? Okay.
African history of cataract surgery. Just like a 10-minute video. It should be pretty interesting.
Sean, whenever you're ready, go ahead. I saw him shaking his head that he's ready for it.
That's not it. Don't look at that. That's not it. That's a music video. Go send him the YouTube link. African history of cataract surgery. It's on my YouTube page. If you look up African history of cataract surgery, Dr. Daniel Laroche, you could try to pull it up. In the meantime, are there any other questions?
There weren't too many other questions.
Okay, well, back to the book real quick. And the other thing that I put in this book also is Ma'at, the moral code of conduct of Ma'at. In the schools in America here, they have removed the spirituality, okay, from the teachings. And laws of Ma'at were the laws of the land back then. And we had a very peaceful society. And when you have a peaceful society, you can be very creative. And that's why we were so creative for thousands of years, developing all kinds of techniques, including writing, architecture, science, mathematics, so many different things that we developed back then, because everybody had the moral conduct of Ma'at, okay? And so I put that in the book so people could learn about that. And I embrace that, and I encourage that, and I teach that, because once you have that peace and you have that peaceful energy, then you can be creative and develop different things, develop techniques, have a clear mind. If you are not in Ma'at, if you're in Isfet, if you're in chaos, if you're fighting all the time, if you're on the run, if you're looking over your shoulder, if you're looking up, you can't get anything done. You can't be creative. You can't excel. You can't thrive. So I put this in the book also to teach the use, and that's our history. That's our legacy.
That's
That's
right.
our heritage. And other groups tap into Ma'at in their own way. The Jewish people have their moral code of conduct that they use. The Asians have their moral code of conduct. There's a lot of Ma'at in Asian culture. When I was at an optical trade show, there was an Asian business company that called themselves Ma'at Optical, okay, which was interesting. So that's in the book also. And then we talk about what we went through with slavery and colonialism so the kids could learn the truth of how brutal that was with the Willie Lynch letter and that type of characterizations of things that took place. And then what we need to do to come out of that. So it's a powerful book. It's extremely empowering. Many of my senior patients who have read it like it. The graphics are great as well. And it's introduction to our history. I have nice references in the book also, like Ivan Van Sertima's book Blacks in Science, Jabari's book, Seven White Lies. That's an excellent book as well, and many others. So it's a great book. I encourage it, and thank you for giving me a chance to speak about it.
So that book is an amazing book, and I'm definitely going to provide the link for that. So people listen, when this is over, I'm going to update the flyer. I'm going to do it tonight with all of the different links, okay? Because this is something that, remember, Tuesday Talk is about getting educated, but also doing something right afterwards, okay? So we're going to be playing the video shortly, but before that, you had mentioned two organizations, the National Medical Association. Do you know which organization I'm talking about? I think
Yes,
National.
yes.
Yes. Explain what that is for all of us.
Sure. Okay, the National Medical Association, it's www.nma.net.org, I believe, is an organization of African American ophthalmologists. It was founded in 1895. There are not ophthalmologists, physicians, excuse me, founded in 1895, and African American physicians all across the country. And so that's an excellent resource to tap into if you're looking for an African American physician. There's also for students who want to go into medicine, or if you have a high school student that's interested in medicine, there's a Student National Medical Association. That's www.snma.org. They have an annual conference every Easter somewhere around the country, and they gather there, hundreds of Black medical students, and they're looking for college students that want to go into medicine, high school students that want to go into medicine. So it's a great mentoring and teaching opportunity that's present there. And you can become a member if you're a college student or a high school student. That's www.snma.org. For those people that are in the New York area, we have students that shadow us and follow us and work with us in our office. So if you're interested, you can reach out to me in that respects as well. Does you have the video ready?
Yes, we are ready.
Here we go. This is it.
Presentation of the African Kemetic history of cataract surgery. Cataract and microinvasive glaucoma surgery started in Africa about 2700 BCE. Important medical historical figures around this time were Ptahhotep, who wrote the first book, Imhotep, the first physician, and Ivory, who was the first ophthalmologist. This is his stele. A couching technique is the oldest form of documented case of cataract. Here is a famous small dynasty, about 2400 BC, and this is seen in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, Egypt. This statue was discovered in 1860 in Saqqara and dates from the Old Kingdom and represents a male figure, the priest reader Ka-Apar. We found an obvious white pupil reflex in the left eye. This finding is in an aged man, probably indicates a mature cataract. Moreover, it does not appear in the right eye, and we suggest that the author carefully inspected the man with a cataract and accurately reproduced what the physical assignment would. A cataract is an opacification of the lens in the eye. It usually occurs as part of the aging process, where the lens becomes very white and cloudy and blocks your vision. This is a wall painting from the tomb of the master builder Ipwi at Thebes about 1200 BC. And this reveals an oculist treating the eye of a craftsman. Because of the length of the instrument, the scene may also be interpreted as cataract surgery by couching the lens into the vitreous cavity. And these are tools that were found in the Saqqara Pyramid complex, about 19 miles south of Cairo. And these are tombs that were found over 4,000 years ago. The tomb of Scar, the chief physician and one of Kemet's 5th dynasty rulers. And in the writing on the walls was a hint that surgery had actually been practiced in ancient Kemet. This was the first hard evidence of it being performed as early in this. It contained about 30 bronze surgical tools used by ancient Egyptian eye doctors. And it's the oldest ever found, including several needles. This confirms the high surgical skill achieved that the ancient Egyptian and Babylonian probably used before Indian surgeons. And the couching operation is dislodging of the cataract away from the pupil. And the surgeon would use a lancet to push the clouted lens backwards into the vitreous of the body of the eye. This relatively simple technique was able to restore the vision. That's probably why it was the procedure of choice for thousands of years. And this is still being performed today. I will show you a video of this. This is a man here performing a couching procedure with these needles inside the eye and dislodging the lens into the eye and restoring the patient's vision as well. This is Dr. Daniel Laroche here describing the history of couching. What is couching? Couching is an ancient procedure developed in Africa where you use a small needle to displace the cataract into the vitreous cavity to allow light into the eye to restore vision. Here's another diagram of how a needle is inserted through the eye, through the area called the pars plana. Then it's rotated anteriorly in front of the lens to dislodge the lens posteriorly into the vitreous cavity to restore vision. This technique, remarkably, is still being performed today in some remote parts of Africa and poor areas with limited resources. Here you see the surgeon who's wiping the eye and prepping the patient and preparing himself for the procedure. Here he's going to wash his hands with some hot water. This is a old form of sterilization. We have much better techniques nowadays with washing our hands with soap and water and using gloves. And here he's pulling out his surgical instruments and also his face mask. Normally we put the face mask on before we sterilize our hands. And here's the surgical instruments, which we would use sterile instruments. And here he's touched the face of the patient that may not be sterilized. And he's placing his hand on the eye. And he's going to insert this sharp instrument into the eye. And as he inserts it further into the eye, he's going to eventually rotate it upwards and try to rotate and dislodge the lens into the vitreous cavity. This patient cannot see anything at all because the cataract is obstructing his vision. And so here he's rotating, manipulating the surgical instrument to dislodge the lens posteriorly. This manipulation and procedure can take several minutes.
Oh, I can't even watch this.
Then he removes the instruments from the eye.
Ooh, child.
He then wipes the fluid that came out of the eye. Normally we put antibiotics before and after into the eye these days to prevent infection. And then he asks the patient to close his other eye and count how many fingers. You see 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers. And the patient is able to see. They do charge for this. This is much less expensive than traditional cataract surgery techniques that we have today. But for some people, they may not be able to afford that. So that's why this procedure is still being done. Now he's cleaning his instrument, sterilizing it to be used into another eye. And this is how this couching technique that was invented in Africa thousands of years ago is still being performed today. We have much better techniques, though, that are much safer with not with completely removing the lens from the eye and placing an intraocular lens into the eye. This is Kaduna, Nigeria, a remote area with a tremendous amount of poverty, decreased access to cataract surgery. And you can see here, blind people from cataracts are being led to an area where they can receive cataract surgery from the traditional couching techniques that were used up to thousands of years ago. And you can see here, people are being checked with eyes examinations to see what their vision is, to see which eye cannot see. They're being brought to this makeshift operating room, which is not much of an operating room. It's a room with carpeting, prayer carpeting, and this is where the procedure will be performed. We have sterile operating rooms now and sterile instruments. This is the instrument, couching instrument that's going to be used to perform the procedure. We have sinks, sterile operating rooms, and sterile instruments that we use.
Oh.
And here the device is being inserted into the eye, perpendicular to the eye, 3 to 4 millimeters from the limbus, and it's rotated anteriorly to try to dislodge the lens into the vitreous cavity to restore vision.
Oh my God. Oh, baby Jesus, if you will do something.
Now they ask the patient if he can see 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, a fist. The patient's able to see the fist, and so the procedure is a success. From not being able to see to now being able to see. Then he washes his hands, cleans the instrument with hot water, and we'll do the next patient that's in line for the surgery. These procedures are not always successful. This particular case, the patient was still not able to see after the procedure. There are very high risk of complications that can occur with this procedure, specifically infection, inflammation. This is the dislodgement of the lens into the vitreous cavity that you see here. We have much safer techniques today. This is inflammation in the eye, corneal swelling that can occur, secondary glaucoma that can occur, optic atrophy that can occur, bleeding in the eye, retinal tears and retinal fluid that can occur. So there's a high risk of complications and infection that can occur with this, despite some successes. And then not only that, but there's no lens in the eye, so these patients will need a lens. So now we've evolved to many later techniques with improved surgery, and nowadays we can also place a secondary intraocular lens in these patients so they can see better. It's called a glued posterior chamber intraocular lens technique, developed by Dr. Agarwal from India. You can see here, this is a patient that has a cataract that's been dislodged into the eye, and the patient has undergone a couching procedure. But nowadays we have better techniques where we can make an incision in the eye with expensive microscopes and expensive instruments here, remove the jelly of the fluid that's in the eye, take out the cataract from the eye, and here the cataract is being lifted up into the anterior chamber, removed from an incision in the eye. The posterior vitreous fluid is being cleaned out, and a secondary modern intraocular lens is being placed into the eye and secured into position into the sclera through 2 openings on the side. And the handshake technique is being used to put the haptics in position beneath the sclera. Stitches, small 10-0 nylon stitches are used to secure the wound, and you're able to get a much better outcome.
Okay.
That was intense, Dr. Laroche.
I'm sorry. I should have put a disclaimer, like, if it's a little bloody or something, look away. Sorry about that.
No. It's I'm a smidge of a drama queen, un poquito. I think it's important for us to recognize and to know exactly what's happening here. First off, we see the heritage and the history of eye surgery, going back to the original people. So that was the first thing that led into this video. The second thing is we see that that information has been passed down through the generations, and that's one of the reasons why they're still using it. And I think it's also important to see how the techniques have progressed and are a bit more sophisticated today. So that was a really good video, and I've never seen that type of stuff. That's great. um it's Tuna Munra asked, have you seen many patients with sickle cell disease develop issues with their vision as they age, or any chronic issues due to the long-term sickling of the red blood cells? Can you first start by giving everybody a definition and kind of an illustration of what sickle cell is before you go into the actual answer?
Yeah, sickle cell is a genetic disease where there's abnormality in the genes that affects the red blood cells. Normally, the red blood cells are round and they stay round no matter what. But in patients with the abnormal gene for sickle cell, the red blood cells can become sickled, which is flatter or curved and flatter. And when they become curved and flatter, particularly in states of deoxygenation, they can clot together. And when they clot together, they can cause crisis and pain. And that can occur in different parts of the body, including the eye. And when that happens in the eye, they can get a retinopathy that's characterized by blood clots in the eye, hemorrhages in the eye, decreased blood flow, growth of abnormal blood vessels. And so they do have to have regular eye examinations to check for this. And this retinopathy can be treated with laser to prevent complications from sickle cell retinopathy. So yes, patients with sickle cell do have to have a good retinal examination periodically. They got to take care of their sickle cell with medications and stay hydrated and stay oxygenated to reduce sickling crisis.
Yes, and I want to add that one of my best friends has sickle cell, and she exercises through pain. She works out. She eats healthy, and I'm not going to tell my age, but she looks the same she did freshman year in college. So it is worth it to invest in living a healthier lifestyle, because it just makes every situation that you're in, physically, mentally, and spiritually as well, better. It doesn't alleviate absolutely everything. It just makes the situation more tenable and makes it a bit better. Okay. So there was a question. This is what I want to know. Sai, I hope I'm saying that correctly. I didn't see any Novocaine going on when people were getting those eye surgery. Did we miss something, Dr. Laroche, or were they just going in without it?
They were going in without it.
Oh, goodness.
I was surprised myself. But think about it, back then you didn't have that. But you know what? It's very interesting. They were very smart, because the cornea, the clear part of the eye, is the most sensitive part of the body, and that's very painful. But they weren't going into the cornea. They were going about 3 millimeters to the side. And so actually, it's not that discomforting when you make the entrance there. So that choice of entry site was where it's not as painful. Now, I definitely felt some discomfort, but it's not as bad as it could have been. So that was pretty cool, actually.
Says the eye surgeon. I have a question from Jason Holmes, and this is a question that I definitely would like an answer to. Jason asked, is it true that marijuana helps decrease the pressure in the eye of the sufferer? One of my homegirls, it's not my friend with sickle cell, but she has a friend from college, and she smokes weed all the time. And she was like, people who smoke weed don't need glasses. Meanwhile, her behind has glasses now. So I just want to know, can you, Dr. Laroche, MD, answer that question, please?
Yes. Marijuana is a cannabinoid plant. The eye has cannabinoid receptors. Now, this was a big theme in Jamaica, because some of the songs said marijuana could help treat glaucoma. In Jamaica, they actually have a marijuana eye drop called Marinol. But this is the problem. There were no clinical trials performed with that particular medication. With marijuana, when you smoke it, it does lower intraocular pressure down for a couple of hours. So to have sustained intraocular pressure, you'd have to smoke it incessantly throughout the day, which you can't really do. You'd be high throughout the whole day in that respect. So we do not recommend it. We have eye drops where you put one drop in the eye, it lowers the pressure down for 24 to 48 hours that work much better and no side effects. So the smoking of marijuana has a lot of side effects. You'd have to smoke it. It's very short acting. Research is still being done with this particular product in some areas of the world to see if it could be done safer. One of the suggestions I had was that when marijuana became legal in Canada for oral forms of marijuana, I thought that would be a good opportunity to do a study. But clinical trials to get approval of certain things cost millions of dollars. So who's going to spend that money to do that when the drug is illegal or just not fully legal yet? But so the main thing is, and then also the marijuana does not address the main cause of the glaucoma.
Mm-hmm.
The main cause of the glaucoma is the enlarging lens in the eye. And so the marijuana is not going to remove that. So my approach to glaucoma, and I'm trying to teach other surgeons, is to take the cataract out with a surgical technique that lowers the eye pressure permanently without the need of eye drops. In a study that we published on clear lensectomy and hydrous stent in Black and Latino patients with early cataract surgery and microinvasive glaucoma surgery, we were able to get 80% of the patients off of medications. Okay, so that's how I like to approach the glaucoma, try to get you off all the eye drops if you don't need eye drops. But in remote areas, like resource poor areas, maybe they have access to the plant of marijuana, and that's the only thing that you have, then there may be an argument to be made to use that in that setting. But in America, where we have access to much better drops and surgery, I wouldn't recommend it. And the American Glaucoma Society does not recommend it either.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. My friend said that 20-something years ago, and I've never had the person who could actually answer that question appropriately. So no, smoke it all day. We ain't doing that. We're not going to do that because we would be useless.
You fry your brain. Jason, I don't want you to fry your brain, man. We appreciate your scholarship and your effort. So don't fry your brain, Jason.
So can you tell us the difference between just the natural aging of the eye and glaucoma or any other pathology of the eye?
Well, a couple of things. Let's start out with kids. One of the big things that for kids and children is we have a myopia epidemic because a lot of kids are spending their time inside and reading close up inside. And that leads to myopia, abnormal growth of the eye, leading to high prescription glasses that can lead to retinal degeneration and other problems in glaucoma like that early on, and retinal detachment. So for kids and children, make sure they go outside and get 1 hour of exercise outside, walking around in the sunlight. Okay, enjoy the sunlight of Ra. Okay,
that's right.
And get some exercise and outdoor exposure. That dramatically reduces the risk of myopia and the need for glasses development. This is a big problem globally with kids, particularly in the Asian community as well, because they spend a lot of their time just inside reading. So that's from the child perspective. The other thing is we spend a lot of our time is at our computers, and that can cause eye strain and headaches. So you want to make sure you get the correct pair of glasses. And when you're spending all day on Zoom or something like that, take a break. Every 20 minutes, do the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, take a 20-second break and look at something 20 feet away. That allows your eye to relax from accommodation and to relax and look off in the distance to reduce your strain. Take a couple of walks during your break, 10-minute break, walk, stretch yourself, maintain your health, exercise before and after. When you get to closer to age 40, you're going to notice that you start putting your hands away like this at distance for reading, and you may start to need reading glasses. The lens doesn't focus as well. That's called presbyopia. Okay, so you start to need reading glasses around after age 40. So if you start having a hard time reading, you're not going blind. It's just that you may need some reading glasses. In the 50s is when cataracts can start and glaucoma can start because your lens is getting larger with age. And so that can affect the eye pressure. So particularly people in the late 40s, early 50s, that's when you want to get checked for cataract, get your eye pressure checked. Normal eye pressure is 15. If you're 18 or higher, that can be glaucoma. So you want to get that checked out. When you're in your 70s, macular degeneration can kick in. Macular degeneration is when the macula, the retinal part of the eye and the macular area, can degenerate. This is a leading cause of blindness in Caucasian individuals. As Black people, it doesn't affect us as much because we have pigment. The retinal pigment epithelium protects us against the sunlight. Sunlight exposure can cause this macular degeneration that occurs. And so those are the big things that we want to check for. And then for diabetic patients, retinopathy. No matter what age you are diabetic, retinopathy can start to develop about 5 to 7 years after you have the diabetes. You want to make sure you get your eyes checked for retinopathy. Obviously, try to lose your weight. When you lose your weight, you can get rid of your diabetes the majority of the time.
Thank you. That was a very thorough answer. I appreciate these answers. So, people, you know, Dr. Laroche is a highly trained ophthalmologist. So these answers didn't come easily. He spent a lot of time and a lot of money and figuring things out to be able to just give it to us like this. Okay, so we want to make sure that we support Dr. Laroche and the things that he does, which includes the Sankofa of bringing forth Black doctors for the future. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the 2020 because I was going to ask you, what is the origin of 2020 vision? What does that mean?
Well, usually, if you're 20 feet away and you can obtain an angle of vision of 20 degrees, that's where that is. And that's considered like normal vision. And that's what we use as a measure. The different parts of the world have different measures of 10 feet or ETDRS or different things. But 2020 is the most common thing that we use in America here in that respect. And then as you go to bigger letters, like the 2020 letter might be this big at 20 feet away. And then each letter as it goes up, 2040, 2060, 2080, 2100. The big E is like 2400. So it's just different sizes of letters at about 20 feet away of what you can see.
So what's the difference between blurry vision? What does blurry vision mean? What is that? What is that?
Different people have used different expressions, but just not being able to see clearly. I have some people that say, oh, my eyes jumping out. I said, really? I said, can you describe that for me? so people will say different things. And so whenever they even say blur, I say, what exactly do you mean by that? And I try to pinpoint what they mean. Like, is it foggy? Is it double vision? So when they say blurry, clearly it means that they're not seeing as well. But I'm trying to figure out exactly where it is, and I pin it down by asking more to be as descriptive as they can be with that.
So full disclosure, when I close my right eye, no, not do close my left eye, my right eye, the vision becomes a little blurry. But with using both of my eyes, it's not blurry, except when the print is like really small, when I'm reading ingredients, like on, I don't know, I cannot have anything close by, but it's like on the back of like a little health shot or something like that. So I was really kind of asking that question because I wanted a little clarity on why I have one eye that's a little more blurry than the other. My left eye is still 20/20. My right eye is the line above 20/20, or I think it's the other way around. But I also had a muscle strain or something on my left side that just hasn't gone away completely. So I also wonder if that has something to do with it. Looks like I might have to go take a visit to Dr. Laroche to see what's going on with the eyes.
When we examine the eye, we check each eye individually. We'll check your vision in one eye. We'll check the vision in the other eye. Usually they're symmetrical, but sometimes they're not. The most common cause of something not being symmetrical is usually you may need a small prescription for a pair of glasses, but also something like a cataract can do that. Glaucoma can do that. And that's why a comprehensive eye examination, if you notice, something's abnormal between each of the eyes, you would want to get that checked out right away and not sit on it, because the earlier you get in, the more we can do for your eyes and your health in general.
I did get it checked out because it was the first time in my life I had that difference, but I also injured my shoulder and neck. And at one point I couldn't even lift my left arm up past parallel to the floor. And so it happened at the same time. So I really don't know what that was. The doctors that I went to didn't know either. So I don't know. We can talk about that offline, but I don't think that that's not a coincidence that happened. I'm also hoping that I can keep my 20/20 vision if I can figure out what it is and address it. So there was another question here that I wanted to ask. Where did that question go? Oh, iridology. What is your opinion of iridology? And can you really look in somebody's eyeballs and tell what's going on with their organs?
Well, like I said, when you look inside the eye, you can see disease processes. For
Okay.
example, you can see inflammation in a patient that may have sarcoidosis. You can see aniridia in someone who's maybe has albinism. You can see different medical pathology. Iridology, I'm not sure. I don't personally subscribe to that. You know, some some people, I'm not as familiar with it, so I don't want to comment on it in that respects. But that's not something that I incorporate in my practice. Uh, I'm more of a traditional uh, medical practitioner and scientist, and when I've looked at it, I've not seen any randomized clinical trials. One of the things that we do to see if something works in science is you have to test it with a randomized clinical trial. That means in one group of patients, whatever it is, you apply it here. And the other group of patients, you maybe do a placebo and see if the product or that medication works or that science works. And I've not really seen that with iridology. So until I see something like that where, it sort of proves itself, I just prefer not to comment on that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's a good explanation for that. Can you also answer this question? Is it true that your eyes are a blueprint and anatomical map of your body?
I wouldn't say that an anatomical map, but I think everybody's eye is unique, just like everybody's handprint is unique. Your fingerprints are unique. Everybody has a unique iris, unique retina, and that's why they can use these iris scans or retinal scans for identification and things of that nature.
Okay. Are there any herbs or any herbal intervention that can help with your eyesight or the health and condition of your whole eye, all of it?
Absolutely. I mean, all the things that I said about salads, vegetables, when you go to the supermarket, go to the produce section, all the things that grow naturally from the ground, those are all things that's going to keep you healthy. Okay. Stay away from like the rice section, the bread section, the canned and the processed food section. Stay away from that. And those are all natural products that will help you. Now, there are some things that are a little more specific, like ginkgo biloba,
Mm.
bilberry, and if you look up glaucoma and herbs and vitamins, you'll see a bunch of different things. But if you're eating healthy, most of those things are in the healthy food that you eat already. So you don't
Okay.
have to have all these expensive supplements. And then some things, no matter what you eat, is not going to help you. If you have a bad gene for glaucoma, you got a bad gene. And no matter what type of healthy eating you're going to do, that's not going to help you. If you have a large lens or cataract controlling glaucoma, no matter what eating that you do is going to help you. You got to take that cataract out. So eating can help to a certain point, but there are some other things that if you have a certain disease process, you have to get it dealt with.
Okay. Thank you. Uh, I have another question. I take Travatan for my pressure, and it's pretty expensive. Is there a less expensive option?
Yes, Travatan is a prostaglandin. That's one of the first line medications that we use. There's two other classes in the same class, Lumigan by Matapros is a generic name, or Latanapros, Zalatan. So you can check with different pharmacies online. Also, you can check with Canadian pharmacies. There's some Canadian pharmacies that do business in America. We can get prices much less in that respects. And then also you can consider early cataract surgery and microinvasive glaucoma surgery that's covered by insurance to try to get off the medication as well. So that's another option for you. I see that's Jason. So yeah, and Jason's young. So those are options for you right there as well.
Okay. Sean is reminding me to. I'm not good at plugging myself, y'all. Somebody accused me of always wanting attention. That's not what I do. This is who I am. So, but I am gonna do this. Please follow me on YouTube at Yoga Girl Sai, and that's also my Cash App. I'm gonna work on that. I feel a little awkward saying that, but please do follow me on Yoga Girl Sai. Um, uh, here's another question. Is it true that the eye flips the image of your vision before the signal travels to the brain? If yes, why does it have this function?
That's a good question. Yes. Um, the brain does see an inverted image in that respect. Exactly why, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you exactly why. That's the way, you know.
And that's her designed it.
Yeah. So that part I couldn't tell you why, but that is true.
Is there a way to prevent cataracts?
Well, if you live long enough, most people are going to develop cataracts. But the best way to delay the onset of cataracts is eating healthy, exercise, and diet. All those things come into play.
You know, knock on wood. I'm knocking on wood, y'all. In my family, and like my mom, my grandmother, my great grandmother, my dad, his parents, they're, you know, we don't have, I haven't heard any of them talk about cataracts or having cataracts. So I'm hoping that I got the no incidents of cataracts in my family going forward.
Let me qualify something. Most people over the age of 50 have some early cataract. In America, they talk about cataract being when your vision is worse than 20/40.
Okay.
But everyone, when you get to like 50 years of age, everybody has an enlarged lens. Okay. And so that enlarged lens is part of the process that contributes to the glaucoma and a slight haziness as well that can occur. So it depends on what your definition of a cataract is in that respect.
The doctor just shut me down, y'all. I was trying to lie to myself and he stopped it. Okay, well then there that is. All right. I just want to make sure I'm getting all the hey. Oh, Ajenicon, oh, come on. He said, nice to see Dr. Daniel from my mom's town, Jack Mel, teaching at the Shrine of Ma'at Squad, sir. I hope I said that name correct.
Sac passe.
What does sac passe mean?
It's like a greeting in Creole.
Oh, okay. It's like Akima'at or hello.
Yes.
Okay. Next time I see you, Dr. Laroche, I'm gonna say sac passe. Am I saying it right?
There you go. Yes.
All right. And Ajenicon, when I see you next, sac passe, I'm gonna write it down so I won't forget. I think I have. Oh, so speaking about your practice, what type of insurance do you take?
Okay. Couple of things. We take many insurances, but we've had to drop a lot of insurances because some of the insurances now, they're not paying doctors. Okay. And I'll give you an example. Like one of the insurances recently I had to drop was Health First. Health First wasn't paying half of my claims. And they're scamming doctors, denying claims for care done and dying for surgery. And I just had to stop taking it.
Yeah.
And in some insurances, like pay only like $25 for a visit. And I can't run my practice or pay my staff that type of on those type of payments.
Right.
And so you have to be very careful because these managed Medicare plans and some of these insurance plans they don't really care about patient care. Their fiduciary responsibility is to the shareholders. So many of these insurance companies, they're just trying to generate more and more profits for the shareholders. That's who they're looking out for, and that's who they're working for. And they do that by cutting services, not paying for care, restricting care, and things of that nature. So be very careful about what insurance companies that you sign up with. We still do take traditional Medicare and, like 1199, Aetna, Cigna, and things of that nature. But a lot of them we just had to stop because they were creating too much of a problem. And I'll give you an example. Like as part of my glaucoma evaluation, I have to order certain tests, like a visual field test, an OCT test, a fundus photo. These are basic tests as part of glaucoma evaluation. You know what the insurance companies would say? Before you order that test, you have to ask for permission. For every single patient, we had to fill out some paperwork and ask for permission to do each single test. And it was incapacitating my ability to provide care to patients. So I just said, you know what, we just have to stop that.
Right.
It's not, I tell the patients, I recommend you change to one of these other insurances, but we can't continue with that particular insurance, unfortunately. So be very careful about what insurances that you pick because there is a scam. These insurance companies have trucks that drive through the neighborhoods trying to recruit people, sign people up. Health First is notorious for that. And they're one of the more abusive insurance companies.
I'm not surprised. It's so disgusting to me. Do you take Medicaid?
I take Medicaid with Medicare, and we take Medicaid HMOs like Metro Plus. We have a good contract with them, so we'll try to get the Medicaid patients involved in one of those programs.
So anyone who wants to be your patient can just simply call your office and ask if you guys take their insurance.
Correct, and we have reasonable prices. Like for the level of service and the things that we do, some of my colleagues charge up to $1,000 for initial visit. Our price is starting at $200 because we know, people need a more affordable entry point.
I love that. There's one question I missed. Have you heard has the doctor heard of butterfly pea flower tea for eye health?
I've not heard of that particular tea. I think you have to be careful with teas and herbs.
Yeah.
Overall, I'm a big fan of them, but sometimes you have to be careful. I'll give an example. There was a lady in Jamaica who was drinking this tea for many, many, many years. It was an herbal tea. She was drinking it. And then one day she developed jaundice, and her doctor couldn't figure out like why she got jaundice because she was slim, she was healthy, and he was trying to probe exactly where is this coming from and trying to do all these tests. And then he finally figured out that she was drinking this tea, and this tea was called Cersei tea. And this Cersei tea was actually very toxic to her liver. And over the years, it completely destroyed the liver.
Oh my God.
And she died from liver failure due to drinking this herbal tea that was toxic to her liver. So, make sure that, when you're picking different things that you research it and you know what it is and you make sure it's not toxic. Another thing that I see is sea moss is very popular in the community. But you have to be careful with sea moss because some sea moss has a lot of iodine in it that can be very toxic to your thyroid. So, you have to be careful what type of sea moss you're eating and making sure it doesn't have a high dose of iodine in it. So, like I said, I'm more like, just the greens, the natural greens that has most of the vitamins that you need.
That's right.
You don't have to go looking for something remote that's untested or unsure. So just be cautious.
Okay. Jenna Khan responded, and I don't know if I'm gonna say this right. Napule.
Yes, when someone says that's like the return greeting, like in that when you say sac passe.
Sac passe.
Yeah, that's how that would be the answer. Napule.
So I got it right when I said Napule.
There you go. You had it right. You pronounced it right.
There you go. All right. I know what I'm doing, y'all.
Yeah.
Do eye strokes have anything to do with cataracts? And are there any eye exercises helpful for eye health?
If someone has cross eyes or their eyes are going, like normally the eyes are supposed to be straight like this and they move together like this. If one eye's out like this, you can do some exercises to try to bring it back in and prevent it from going out. When you have enlarged lenses in the eye that contribute to elevated eye pressure, that can cause a stroke in the eye. So for me, if someone has an eye pressure like 18 or higher in the setting of a normal corneal thickness, I either would recommend cataract surgery or start them on drops to lower the pressure to prevent strokes. High eye pressure can lead to strokes.
Okay. So, guys, we've been on for quite a while. We're going to have Dr. Laroche back. This was so informative and so interesting, and his story. He had history, and he talked about, organizations for young Black students who want to be doctors. This was super dope. I hope you guys really understand that. When I was in college, I was pre-med, and I took chemistry and organic and physics and calculus. I didn't like it, y'all. I'm gonna keep it real with you. That wasn't for me. And I know a whole lot of friends who are physicians and surgeons. And I have one friend who was an ophthalmologist. He's in the military. And I was like, Derek, what do you do as an eye doctor in the military? Explain it to me. And what he does is during wartime or when they're in that situation, they airdrop him. Someone goes and drags the bodies in, and he operates on the eye right away to try to save people's eyes. That's what Derek does. And so I know Derek and I know Dr. Laroche. Of all the doctors that I know who were pre-med when we were back in college, that is how few Black eye doctors that we have. So if you're watching this and you have children, you have siblings, nieces, nephews, cousins, people in your family, anybody you know and love, we need to make sure that we have our physicians, our healthcare providers who are in practices that are less visible to a lot of our people. Now, I was fortunate enough to have Blue Cross Blue Shield my whole life, and as a kid, and a dentist, and a lot of these doctors that some people, if you have less resources in the community, that you don't have, and therefore you don't see these kinds of doctors. But we can understand today from our Tuesday talk how important it is to take care of yourself and take care of your eyes and go see your ophthalmologist. Okay, so agenda count is on fire tonight. I was getting ready to close, but I saw a question, and I am so glad he asked this question. Dr. Laroche, can you help out the fashion industry and the choices of women when you answer this question? This is going to be the last question, y'all. So we're going to hand Dr. Laroche back to his wife. What advice for those ladies who like those big, ridiculous eyelashes?
Oh, that's a good question.
It sure is.
They come in my office all the time. I'm not a big fan of them.
Me neither.
The reason is the glue that goes on these eyelashes that goes onto them is very toxic to the glands. You have glands called meibomian glands on the eyelids that contribute to the tear film. And so the glue is very toxic to that. The heavy eyeliner is very toxic to that. And over the years, those glands will be destroyed and people will develop dryness in their eye. If you insist on having some eyelashes, there's this one technique that I've seen that seems to work pretty good. Some people will take like one eyelash, and let's say my arm is the eyelash here. They'll take an extra eyelash and glue it in the middle of your eyelash there, one by one, so that the glands at the base are not affected. That's not too bad if you insist on doing that, but you need a professional to help you with that. But stay away from those glued strip. But before you close, or as you close, we are very multi-dimensional people. Follow your passion, follow it with excellence, consistency, persistency, to be the best that you can be. And in this American capitalist system, find a way to make money, follow your passion, and do what you love. And like one of the things that I recently did is a music video on glaucoma and cataracts. And so as you close out, I got two of my patients who are from Haiti, who were singers and musicians, and I liked their music. I bought a CD from them. I said, I like your music. I want to do a song with you. And we collaborated to produce this song and music video that educates the community about cataract and glaucoma. So as you close out, and when you close out, I'd like to just kindly ask to see if you can play that music video as a form of entertainment before people go to sleep tonight to learn about cataract and glaucoma. Just to show that, because I never knew I was going to be doing a music video. I grew up on MTV. You know what I'm saying? But, let your mind, like the ancestors, be creative.
Right.
Follow your creative juices. And you could do anything that you want to do with excellence, consistency, persistency, and ma'at. So that's how I just wanted to end and share that video with you guys too. So maybe Sean could play it when you're finished.
So I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Laroche. A lot of people have been like, this was so informative and educational and things like that, and inspiring. So Cleo Ford, one of the members of the Shrine, asked, how can we get in touch with the doctor? So I'm going to update the flyer. I'm going to do this tonight. I promise. I'm going to do it tonight. I'm going to update the flyer, and on that is going to have his contact information. At the same time, if you look in the chat, I put his medical practice website in the chat. So if you scroll up, you can see it. I'm trying to find it. Advanced Eye Care, where I can't find it in this. It's gone from where I can see it. But Cleo, all you have to do is just wait for me to update it. It might take an hour or two or whatever, but I'm going to do it tonight. You're going to have all of his contact information, all of the links that we discussed tonight, the videos, etc. Okay, so remember, guys, Tuesday Talk is about Kemetic spirituality, African spirituality, and Pan Africanism. Part of Pan Africanism is self-sufficiency and taking care of yourself. And people were like, what about this herb? What about that herb? What about marijuana? What about this and that? And what did Dr. Laroche said? Eat healthy. Get back to the greens and the salads. Stay off the bread and the rice and the pasta. Okay? Stay off of that. And one of the key things, key pieces of information that he provided was what you're seeking in these herbs over here is in the food that you eat. It is. I'm not saying don't use herbs, but one thing that I said to myself was, if it's too hard to eat it, I'm not supposed to be eating it, because our ancestors and nature made surviving easier than looking for something that's so completely obscure, or isolating one herb, or doing something that is difficult on time and difficult on the body. All right. So just eat healthy, lots of greens, use your spices, low on the salt. If you use spices and actually taste the spice, that's what tastes good. Salt is not a spice. A little sprinkle enhances a spice. All right. That's what we want to eat. Okay. So with our salads, greens, lay off the bread, lay off the grains. He recommended getting your greens and juicing them and then freezing them, which was such a good idea. And I said, going ahead and throw in some sweet, put some pineapple in there, and some green apple, or whatever you think is sweet. But I'm telling you, your girl Sasha got you covered with the pineapple and the green apples. Okay. So try that, see how things go. There's going to be some aging, as Dr. Laroche reminded me when I was trying to pretend. But make sure you go get your eyes checked on a regular basis, okay? And again, we're going to have that registry of the Black doctors. It'll take a little bit of time. You can check tonight or tomorrow. It'll be there, okay? So, Dr. Laroche, thank you for joining us. This was super awesome. We're going to have Dr. Laroche back, because there are other things that we talked about, y'all. And I said, Doctor, we're going to have you back. We can't be here all night. This ain't Dr. Jeffries. We're not going to be here all night. Anyway.
Well, I just want to say, keep up the good work, Abud. I appreciate you, because I watch you guys. I want to also encourage and thank all the members of the Shrine, obviously Jabari and Nika, for their leadership, and all the workers behind the scenes, all the members, for all the work that you do. As the first public shrine, it's very, very important. It's helped me reconnect with my Kemetic spirituality as well, and to launch and help promote and share with you guys also. Baba Hiru, shout out to Baba Hiru. Shout out to all the people that are involved, Mfudishi, the Happy Family, the Jeffries, Professor Small. Just a shout out to all y'all guys. Just keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you on behalf of me and Tuesday Talk and my team and the Shrine of Ma'at. And might I extend also to the rest of the people who you mentioned, as well as the Temple of Anu. Everybody out here who's just, we doing what we can for our people, so we can elevate and pass on the lesson of elevation to the next generation. Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Laroche. We will have you back. And Sean, do you have that video? What's the name of the music video?
Do you know how important it is to check doctor for your eyes? That's the only way you will know you have cataract. Do you know how important it is to check doctor for your eyes? That's the only way you will know you have glaucoma. Go check doctor for your eyes. That's the only way you will know you have cataract. Go If you are over 50, check your eyes for cataract. Go check a doctor before it's too late. Your normal eye pressure is 50. When he's 18,
I'm seeing myself.
this could be glaucoma.
Oh, can you play the
Check
video?
a doctor.
Okay, so that was the clip, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, that was the clip.
All
Yes.
right. Well, it's on YouTube. If you look up eye pressure downloads, you can see the whole thing. I think because it was from YouTube, it was breaking up. But thank you.
Well, again, we are going to have that in one of the links. Ajana Khan gave me a compliment. Thank you. I was a little surprised by that. And Jason Holmes wants to do our boots a shot for having Dr. Laroche on, and do our Dr. Laroche for being here and answering all of our questions. And also, Jason Holmes said, thank you for being at their initiation ceremony, doctor. So yes, they definitely, I remember he was there. So yeah, so he just wanted to say thank you. And thank you, Ajana Khan, for the compliment. I appreciate it. So we are heading out for the end of Tuesday Talk. Sean, I'm just gonna provide the link because I wanna let Dr. Laroche go. We've had him for almost 2 hours and he will be coming back. So thank you so much for coming, Dr. Laroche. And I really appreciate everybody who was a part of Tuesday Talk. And remember, listen, spread this far and wide to our relatives who need to go see doctors, who are afraid to go see doctors, who've never been to an eye doctor, who keep eating pork and salt and sugar and fat and rice and stuff. Like, there was so much in this, and you can grab someone to learn a little piece about how they can improve their health. So with that, I say Shemem Ma'at. Have a great rest of your evening. Check back in a couple of hours, and I will see you next week. Shemem Ma'at.